Hey guys, it's Alvin and Jess, and we are the Most Potato.
On today's episode, we'll be discussing Godzilla -1. There will be spoilers ahead, so if you haven't watched this movie yet, go rush to the theater and watch this, because we'll be discussing this deeply, and come back after watching.
Thank you for tuning in, and we hope you guys enjoy the show.
All right, here we go.
All my thickness coming. He's so cute and chunky. I love him.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Most Potato Podcast. And if you got that terrible attempt at that song, that main theme song, we will be discussing the latest Godzilla movie, Godzilla -1. And I'm so excited to talk about this. You take it away. I'm already overwhelmed.
Oh my gosh, relax. It's not that deep, okay? No. Yes, we'll be talking about Godzilla -1. I've only ever watched the 97 version where they're in New York when I was a kid on VHS. So that's all I know about Godzilla, and that he's like really thick on the bottom and he's got these little arms and he's got chubby cheeks. This one is just like that, but scary.
Yes.
Like dread kind of scary. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're talking about the latest Godzilla movie to drop from Japan, from Toho Studios, which, by the way, this is the 33rd ever Godzilla movie made. Like, there's 33 fucking movies of this damn monster. Like, we talk a lot of shit about reboots and sequels and re-sequels and rebootquels in America, but we forget that Godzilla is just churning out movies almost every year in Japan. And this movie has a long-ass history. It started off in 1954 as this political commentary reacting to the nuclear fallout post World War II. And then in the 80s, it turned into this weird, goofy, just sci-fi adventure of Godzilla fighting a monster of the week. And now we're talking about this newest one, which looks very terrifying when you see the trailers. They make no joke about this. They're like, we want you to feel dread whenever you see him. And yeah, I gotta say, this movie really killed it. So, and this movie's directed by Takashi Yamazaki. I haven't seen any previous movies before. I looked up his filmography, and he has a long history of movies that he made. Mm-hmm. I've never seen any of them. So this is my first exposure to his direction. He's also the writer of the movie as well. And we've also got a fantastic cast, the handful of characters that we follow, their acting was superb. I love this freaking movie. And just to give a quick rundown of what this movie is about. So basically we're following the legendary monster Godzilla once again, but this time he's wreaking havoc in Japan post the horrific events of World War II, where the Japanese economy is in ruins, and Godzilla, bathed in the power of the atomic bomb, emerges and putting the country in a new, unimaginable crisis. Yes. And again, from what you see in the trailer, this movie's nothing but devastation.
Yeah.
This isn't some of the American movies we've seen where it's very heavy action oriented. It's not Godzilla fighting another monster. It's Godzilla just terrorizing this poor damn island
for no reason. I'm
literally just
what is your reason? What was the reason?
For existing.
Yeah.
He's mad that he exists.
Basically.
He's I'm coming for you guys.
No reason whatsoever. He looked lost as to why he was doing what he was doing, but he also looked satisfied after he just fucked shit up.
Yeah. Yeah, basically. And this Godzilla is basically a force of nature type of Godzilla. It's not the heroic type of Godzilla we've been seeing lately, where he's the balance of nature or anything like that. Mm-hmm. He's supposed to be like a fucking hurricane coming in. He is a natural disaster.
Yeah.
Not even he. It's not even we don't even know the sex of this thing. Every character refers to it as it.
Yeah.
It's just it. We don't even know what kind of organism this is. It looks like a dinosaur, but it's not, which is really weird. And it's insane. It's crazy. You were mentioning earlier that your only exposure was the 1997 American Godzilla. Mm-hmm. It's funny because I was gonna ask like how many different movies you've seen. I mean, besides the ones that you've seen with me.
Oh yes,
that's like really your only exposure.
See, I already forgot. Like this is.
Yeah, like the latest American ones.
Yeah, was that with Kong, right?
Yeah, Kong was the latest one we watched together.
Yeah.
I don't think you watched King of the Monsters or the 2014 Godzilla.
I don't think so. I was never really into Godzilla like that. I just know that I had like my VHS and I had like my 5 rerun VHS that I had to rewind all the time.
Same.
This one, the 97 one, wasn't. I don't know. Godzilla was basically protecting like its eggs at that point, right?
Yeah.
So that was the reason for that one.
Valid.
Anyway,
I actually bought into that, and even when I rewatch it, I'm like, okay, this is actually a decent concept.
Yeah.
It's just that sometimes it'd be goofy as fuck.
Yeah, very.
But I still enjoy the shit out of that movie. It's stupid sometimes, but it's a fun time, and it's my gateway drug into Godzilla.
And I can see the difference. I know I've only watched like 2 like versions of it, and then now this one being a third, but I really enjoyed like the story. And I don't know if it's because I'm like older now and I can like appreciate a storyline that's happening, but I'm pretty sure if I watch like the previous ones, there's no like real story like with characters. I like that we're following a main character who is dealing, with basically the war, the aftermath of it, him surviving, survivor's guilt, all that stuff. Basically having a family or creating a family and still dealing with these things on top of Godzilla existing and trying to figure out like, what is this creature? How do we defeat this creature? So it was very like, the spectacle of Godzilla was like really, really cool and really scary. And they did some new things that I didn't think from what I know about Godzilla was something that it could do, but I really like that. We'll get into that in a moment, but I enjoy the story. And as always, you guys know, I cried. I'll tell you about the parts I cried at. It was, you can't laugh at me. You were getting a little teary-eyed over there too yourself, but that's, I like that it was able to be like action for the most part, like some action, not like heavy action.
No,
but
they were sparing with the action.
Yeah,
and whenever the action happened, it was so worth the wait.
Yeah, so it wasn't like heavy action. There was some, and then you have Godzilla coming in. That's the big spectacle of it all. But there was a nice little story on the side that was really emotional, and had you rooting for certain characters. It wasn't just like, everybody's dying and there's just a random group of people that we have to follow that we don't care about. I hate when movies with like big monsters or big stakes, they're just like, here's a group of people, follow them.
And they focus too much on them when they're not fully fleshed out, and you don't care about them.
And when they start picking them off, you're just like, all right, like I'm assuming you two are going to make it to the ends because that's just, you guys got the bigger paycheck and that's it, But this wasn't like that, and I really enjoyed it that's what I enjoyed about this movie a lot.
Yeah, you just took the words right out of my mouth. Everything that you mentioned, I echo that same sentiment. This movie, it lived up to my expectations. I was so hyped when I saw this trailer because, again, like my first exposure was the American Godzilla movies, but then like a couple years after, like I was a little kid when I first saw these movies, but then I got exposed to the Japanese ones, and then I saw what they were truly made for. Like even some of the goofy ass ones I enjoy, but I'm like, clearly this is not taking itself seriously.
Yeah.
But like stuff like the 1954 original one, like as comical as it can look sometimes with like a guy in a rubber suit, it was still a dark movie, and for its time it was like cinematically like groundbreaking. And it was a really interesting way how filmmakers and just creatives want to like process such a traumatic event in something like Godzilla. And this movie just took that concept, that origin, and just took it up to like 11. Like they really wanted to show you the horrors without it being too like gratuitous or too like show-offy.
Yeah.
But there are sequences that really genuinely horrified me, and there are moments that like genuinely warmed my heart too. It was a really nice balance of the dread and the uplifting moments with specifically the characters that we follow. It's the stuff that I've been hearing about in reviews, but it still blew me away with how much they delivered on those aspects. Like this movie really isn't just about the monster. Like you see Godzilla a total of like maybe 3, maybe 4 times. And every time he shows up, I told you this, and we went with our friends as well. I told them, like, I felt like I just didn't want to see him show up.
Mm-hmm.
Every time he showed up, I'm like, no, you fucking
Yeah.
asshole, get away from these people. They're just trying to live. They're trying to live.
Yeah.
This little chosen family just trying to make it to like Friday and get their paycheck and get some milk.
Yes.
Over here stomping on freaking Tokyo and just blowing shit up. Like the atomic bomb wasn't enough.
I know, honestly. I mean, hence the -1. It's just
Yeah.
like not even like, a day into the aftermath and we dealing with this bitch Godzilla. For no
and that's
reason.
it. Yeah, and it's interesting. Like I laughed at the title at first. I was like, -1. What the is he doing? Quick muffs? Like, is he doing taxes? Why is it called -1? And the movie it doesn't explain to you, but it kind of shows you that -1 kind of references sort of like the negative state that Japan is in right now, where it's like they're trying to recover from the disastrous like losses of money from losing the World War.
Mm-hmm.
And then like just 2 years after now they have to deal with this creature on top of that. And it's just, it was fantastic. Like the movie lived up to everything. I'm drawing on blanks on anything that I could complain about. Like this is one of those movies where it just seems perfect to me. Like I won't even bring up some of the CGI shots that were obviously a little wonky just because this is like a $15+ million budget, which is really impressive, especially coming off of like a couple of $200 million movies that look like Mucinex commercials. Like, I don't know, man. Hollywood needs to take a serious page out of like indie films and international films on how to spend money. Because wow, this was only 15 million, and it's just like all the shots looked incredible.
Yeah.
Even when it looked a little shaky, it wasn't something that distracted me or anything.
It looked shaky sometimes, but there was like some goofy moments. I don't know if you felt that, like it's when you saw like Godzilla walking. I don't know if it's just because he's got bad shape or something like that, but it was the way
his
he was
movements
moving.
was a little very static. Like every time he took a step, the whole model just froze.
Yeah.
Until he moved the leg again, and then when he stomped, he just locked and froze.
Yeah.
And it looked a little unnatural.
And when they did that, like that shot that was like it was far away, and he was like. You saw like the whole landscape. You saw everything around him, people running, like everything being destroyed. It kind of looked like there was just like a wallpaper and then like a toy kind of.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like, oh my God, this is so bad. I mean, I was like enjoying it. It was kind of noticeable. And I was just like, this looks kind of funny. But then they like zoom back into like, people running and tripping and all stuff like that. Well, and that's not even like a bad thing about it.
Nitpicky stuff.
It was like nitpicky stuff because I was kind of enjoying like every time he was on screen because he's kind of cute.
Yeah,
like,
I know. I like the snout. It just looks kind of like a dog snout.
Yeah,
almost.
I kept calling him Milo, and like he just looked so chunky and cute, and it was like his little thick thighs and his chubby cheeks and his little arms, and I was just like, this is kind of funny, and he's just like a bad child, like just destroying like Japan. I'm like, okay, but that's like the only thing if you want to pick something out of it, and I feel like you can't even come at that for how good everything else is. Like honestly, I can't think of anything bad to say about this movie. The acting, the heart of the characters, the actors put into these characters, really emotional. And I mean, you got your little love drama there too that I was enjoying. Like, so it's like. If anybody wants to go see this, like, don't worry about not finding something. There's something there that I think
that you'll gravitate towards.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. And going back to like the Godzilla design, this is really like it's like a mix of like the original 54 design mixed with some of like the designs that we've seen back in the 80s. But they made him way more aggressive looking. Like his texture doesn't even look like lizard skin. It's almost like he's made out of stone almost. Mm-hmm. Just to give him like this really cold, hard exterior. Whenever he shows up, he just looks like if you just, I don't know, get near him, you'll somehow get stabbed to death with like the spikes that are on his skin, the giant dorsal fins on his back. Like they really made him menacing. And they made him really scary looking in previous movies too. Like they really... I love that they keep changing up the physical look of this creature because it just gives him a new identity for what the movie's trying to go for. And this one looked like a serious like chaos embodied in like a giant lizard thing. Yeah. It just looked like an unstoppable force. So when they give you the premise that the main character and this ragtag group of people are trying to take down this creature, with no real advanced weapons, you're just like, oh no, these people are getting swatted like flies.
Yeah.
They are not going to make it. And I was convinced for most of the movie, like, damn, these people are really not going to make it. Like, how do you take down this fucking giant ass creature?
Yeah.
That is impervious to like a lot of things, like a lot of man-made weapons. Like, it really put the fear in people. Like, and I love that the theater was so like, for the most part, quiet and silent, because I could tell people were just sucked into the movie.
Yeah.
Like, even in the funny moments where people should have been laughing, like nobody really laughed. And I think it's because they were just so like engulfed in the movie.
And we didn't want to miss the subtitles. So.
That too. But I mean, the subtitles this time around was really easy to read. So that's good at least. So let's get a little more into like the meat of the story. So we mentioned that it took place post World War II. We follow a protagonist who is actually a former kamikaze pilot who, at the end of the war, he basically abandons his mission of going to give his life to try to like make some last ditch effort to win the war.
Yeah.
Instead, he lands in an island called Odo Island, where they have repair people there in case a plane comes that's faulty. He lies about his plane being faulty because he just doesn't want to sacrifice himself, which I totally get. And obviously he gets berated, or not berated, but he basically gets like side-eyed by the captain. He's just like, funny, there's nothing wrong with the ship.
Exactly.
And the main character, Shikishima, he just goes, well, what are you implying? It's like, obviously, like, we both know the elephant in the room. You're not trying to go to war right now.
He's basically there. He's basically a deserter in their eyes, and he's a disgrace.
Yes.
And I'm like, I would be like, I'll be that. Imply all you want to imply, because, like you said, it was a lost cause, like a last ditch effort to like win the war or whatever. And as you'll see going forward, when he does return home, everybody's just like, why? How are you still alive? Like, weren't you supposed to basically sacrifice yourself? Like,
how'd you make it?
How'd you make it, basically? And he's just like, I think he got like a letter from his parents saying like, come back alive, or whatever. And that's what he did, because it was a pointless mission at that point. So
even another comrade had mentioned like, I'm on your side. Like, like, we all know the outcome. We're not going to win this war, so why would you sacrifice yourself? Yeah,
and I do want to get into a little bit later, like the basically how they talk about the politics and the government of Japan, and they do mention a couple of characters mention how it's pointless to just throw your life away if you can survive, and I guess kind of fight another day if need be, or just keep surviving for the future.
Right.
But they were talking about how the government like regards the bodies of like citizens as disposable, like and I thought that was really interesting that they were saying that and touching on that. But I think the culture is different now, like present day. So then it was very fitting that they were talking about that in the movie. So
yeah, definitely. And we basically follow Shikishima throughout the years, post the war, because eventually he's exposed to Godzilla, and he has to band together with a group of citizens who also have some military background. And they have to survive Godzilla's wrath while also trying to come up with a way to kill this thing. Yeah. Which is a very compelling story. Like, just in general, take away the Godzilla aspect, just insert any natural disaster thing, and just having a group of citizens having to band together to basically help each other survive without the help of government assistance. Like, that is,
government's just like, we don't want to cause like a frenzy or anything like that. But I'm just like, you caused like 30,000 people to just be wiped off of the face of the planet, basically. Yeah. So I just thought it was really interesting that he's looking for work after he comes home, because we didn't go into it, but when he did land on Odo, where they were doing the repairs for any pilots that may have come to that island, that's when we first see Godzilla, and that was like the beginning of the movie.
Just right off the bat, no giant swelling music, no hinting of like the dorsal fins coming out of the water. It's just at night, a noise comes up, and they're like, "What the fuck?" They
thought it was like enemy or something like that.
Yeah, they turn around, you see Godzilla just like come down and just like swoop in and crush things and like pick people off with his mouth, and we're just like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck's going on? And also, like, why is Godzilla smaller than usual?
Yeah.
And at that point, Godzilla's not fully grown. So he already existed prior to Shikishima, in present day 1947, because this happens in 1945, is the first appearance of Godzilla. So later on, we see that Godzilla had already existed. He just had awakened, basically, from like the war.
And didn't one of the I'm assuming he was a mechanic that worked on the planes say he was like Godzilla, and people were just like, what the fuck, what are you talking, what does that mean?
Yeah, because the local villagers would that's where he learned it from. That's where he learned the name.
So it's just like
Godzilla.
Even before this,
he'd already been around.
He's already around, or it's been around, and people were talking about it, and people probably thought it was just like, some old story, like some bad bedtime myth type thing.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was like really interesting. So it's like, was he even tinier and cuter then? Yeah.
Yeah, because that is also like the lore of Godzilla. Because even in 1954, they learn about Godzilla through villagers saying like, oh, like we've seen this creature, we call it Godzilla. So it stays kind of true to like the original movie too with that. When he shows up on this island, like we're only like not even 10 minutes into the movie, and we're already seeing what they intend to do with this Godzilla creature. This thing comes out of nowhere in the middle of the night, which is a really great tactic. I barely see Godzilla attacking at night in these movies. We see that Godzilla's picking these soldiers one by one, just swooping in with its mouth and just like biting people, tossing them aside, slamming its tail against a group of people, stomping on them. Stuff that we think about like kind of in the back of our minds in previous movies, but they never explicitly show the individual like just like what's the word I'm looking for? Not demise, but casualties. It's like they never really bothered to show that in detail in previous movies, but we can always assume because it's a big ass fucking monster stomping around the city.
Buildings collapsing, people most likely are dead. So we're for the first time right off the bat, it's showing us like this is what Godzilla does to you. Like if it sees you individually and you're trying to fight it, it's gonna fight back. Like it'll claw swipe you, tail swipe you, bite you. And right off the bat, I was freaking horrified. I was like, what the fuck? This is what we're dealing with? Yeah. It was terrifying. And it built so much suspense too, because these soldiers have a chance to just hide out and maybe just like wait for Godzilla to leave. But one of the soldiers just can't handle it. Like it's getting closer to where they're hiding, and they just can't help but try to shoot it. Yeah, and I'm just like, and then they all start shooting, and I'm just like, don't do that.
You just seen that bullets don't work on this thing. Yeah. And then Shikishima's ordered to be in his fighter jet to try to use the turret gun, because the captain goes, oh, like that thing, it could kill anything. Yeah. But you've never seen this organism before. And then the whole time I'm thinking like, well, I'm wondering, like, does this gun actually work on this Godzilla right now? Or would it have just been in vain and he just would have got killed anyways? Yeah. So when Shikishima locks up and freezes and can't bring himself to pull the trigger, I was just like, oh, God, I already know what kind of drama they're setting up, but it's like, I would not be mad at him for doing that. I would be in that same position. And anybody who would get mad and be like, oh, he was such a pussy, he should have just killed him and shot him. I'm like, I would like to see you in that situation and see if you don't freeze up and lock up. When you see a weird mutated looking dinosaur basically almost staring you down, you're in the middle of a horrific war already, and you're seeing this nightmare fuel in front of you. I highly doubt you would pull the trigger. I think you would be frozen in fear. So I like that they right off the bat they set the tone. They established what Godzilla is. It is a nightmare beast. It is not a hero. It's not like a villain per se. It's just like an environmental disaster happening. Yeah. And that was a great open. That was just like a great opening for that movie. Yeah.
And like after that, like what's his name? Shikishima. He passes out, after basically everyone's dead, but then he wakes up in the morning and there's one guy left who's basically pissed off at him.
Yeah, Tachibana.
Tachibana, yes. He's just like, they all died because you couldn't, like, you know,
couldn't pull
the trigger for the, you know, whatever the missile bomb that was
Tosses
attached
him
to.
the photos of these comrades that fell and their families.
And just, like, leaves them with that. And then they're eventually, they're picked up. You know, eventually, and you know that's where Tachibana is just like pissed off, and you know he's just like, not only are you like a deserter, you also couldn't pull the trigger to save everybody, and I'm just like, you guys all would have been dead, or you guys could have just not done anything if they just sat quietly, but they didn't know, obviously, fair and all that stuff. So that's what Shikishima is dealing with.
Survivors Guild, PTSD,
all this stuff.
So much shit.
And then when he gets home to go to his house,
that house is gone.
Like the neighborhood's gone, basically. He's looking for his parents. His neighbor is like, aren't you supposed to be dead? Like, you're one of those pilots. And she's mad. She's disgracing him. And she's like, your parents are dead. And it's just like, I like that he returns home. And it's just like everyone's looking to rebuild. Everyone's looking for work, food. You just start rebuilding. You just start from whatever. They're basically still living where their homes were, in the rubble. And it's just it was just really interesting to see. I'm just like, I can't imagine. Like I really can't imagine, but they keep going, and they have to just do daily things if they want to continue to survive while grieving. Not only him with coming back from the war and PTSD and survivor's guilt and all that stuff, but the people that were completely destroyed and lost everything. Like his neighbor, I think she had 3 kids maybe. They all died.
Lost his parents.
He lost his parents, and you see all this devastation surrounding them, but they just have to pick up and try to rebuild again, which we do see happen eventually.
And that's where we start getting exposed to like a lot of different characters, which is something that it's not too far off from the original Godzilla movies. We do have some movies where we follow characters that are fairly fleshed out, but this is the first time where I genuinely feel super like attached to everyone that we see. Even with the little screen time that some characters have, the movie gives them enough personality and enough like desires for us to actually care about what's going on with these characters. Some of the characters that we have, including Shikishima, is Noriko, the woman that he meets when he first arrives in his burnt down, destroyed town. She's carrying this child that's not even hers. She's just like, I picked this up from somewhere this human thing. I just picked this baby up from somewhere. It's not even mine. I'm not related to this baby in any way. And then Shikishima and Noriko, they become basically like just parents to this baby, and they become like a chosen family. Like it starts off with him just like, you only get to stay here for one night. And then 2 years later, they're together. They have like a whole routine. Their house is more rebuilt. They're a little more in a stable condition. And I quickly bought into like the Noriko character and the relationship with Shikishima and Noriko. And I like that they still weren't a romantic item together. They were just cohabiting and raising this child. Like they're not related to each other. They're not dating each other. They're not related to this baby. It's a really weird and just like unconventional concept, especially in 1940s and especially in Japan. Where the nuclear family is the only idea that anyone has of a family.
Exactly.
I love that they chose to do this, because I think this ties to the whole theme of just like anti-war and anti-government that this movie is basically trying to bring up. It's this little family is just like this radical idea of imagining new futures and new possibilities, and not always having to rely on, you know, like tradition and making sure that your honor is like maintained. The family dynamic, I bought into it. I love that the old woman that berated Shikishima earlier on Sumiko is her name. She becomes a part of the family as well as like this surrogate auntie. Because whenever the baby has to be left behind, Sumiko babysits. And it's good for her because she lost her children in the bombings as well. So right away, they let you know that you're going to be spending time with these characters and you're going to give a shit about them. And they waste no screen time. Every time a character shows up, they have a purpose. They have meaning to the story. And they're just genuinely like likable people or people that you can sympathize with. And the fact that this movie is mostly like a drama focusing on these characters with just like Godzilla as like the backdrop, that's just like, that's bold because that could easily go south. Look at like the American Godzilla movies that came out lately where they put emphasis on human characters. And they're like the weakest part of the movie because they're one dimensional. There's really no fleshing out these characters really. Yeah. Which it's so refreshing to see in this movie. So I love the characters, and every time they introduce a new character, it's for good reason because now they move the plot forward. Because when Shikishima starts working this new job as a minesweeper, that's where like the real drama comes because now he's taking on a risky ass job collecting old mines that the U.S. had left behind during the war. Any of them could detonate at any point if you touch them wrong. Yeah. And it's just like, oh shit, but it pays good. Yes. And these people, they need food, they need rent and stuff. Yeah. It's like
and they have the baby too. That's like the main thing.
Yeah, the baby is the priority. Yeah. So I love that they keep setting different levels of tension. It's not just regarding Godzilla, but it's just like the people's needs, like taking on a seriously risky job, but it pays well. Yeah. Like that's something that doesn't distract from the movie. It adds to what's going on because it still connects to what happens with Godzilla. So we meet like other really cool characters. We meet your favorite boyfriend. What's his name?
Yoji Akitsu. He's the captain
of the minesweeping boat. Yeah. Yeah. He was really charismatic. He's one of those very colorful anime characters. It's so funny. Like I love that they inject lively characters. We get introduced to him and the trainee as well, Shiro, who just wants to be able to defend his country.
The broken arm trio. I love your notes.
That's the only way I could remember him, the dude with the broken arm, because they don't use him that much in the movie other than for like comedic relief. Yeah. It's so funny.
And then Kenji Noda.
I liked Kenji. Yeah, he's the
he's cute.
Yeah, he's like the little old
he's like a scientist, right?
He was a scientist that worked during the war, and he also needed some work. Yeah. And so he ends up with the minesweeping team as well. They band together to work, and very quickly they get exposed to Godzilla. They're one of the first people that gets exposed because so Shikishima has this conversation with the crew of how he first encountered this creature back in 1945, which, by the way, it just blows my mind that a person would just like witness something so like bizarre and horrific, and just like if you tell anybody you'd be looked at as crazy. Yeah. To live with that for like 2 years or more and not tell anyone. And not even have a therapist because therapy wasn't really like a thing back in the day.
Did you write a letter to the government? Be like, hey, listen. Like
it's just crazy to sit with that trauma and that history and just knowing, wow, that shit. Like I saw a monster kill everyone around me, and now this thing is back to fuck with us again. When they're collecting these mines, and then Godzilla emerges, and then that's like their very first exposure to that creature, and they quickly have to bring attention to the world that this thing is out there.
Because weren't they hired to like go out there because they had these like massive like ships that were just destroyed, left abandoned in the middle of the ocean?
All the big mechanical ones were getting destroyed.
And then the government was just like, oh, we need to send someone out there to like lure him or distract him. And I'm just like, so you send these guys who already like, minesweeping this dangerous job.
With a tiny wooden boat.
Yeah, a tiny wooden boat. I'm like, the disrespect and disregard. But yeah, it's because a lot of ships were just destroyed and they were just like, well, what's going on? And they realized like what it is. And that's when we see like the action of Shikishima and this new group that he's with. Trying to like outrun Godzilla and figure out a way to like deter him for a moment so they could get away.
Yeah, it was literally like a scene from Jaws, but way more horrific. Yeah, it was giving me Jaws and Jurassic Park vibe, where the creature's coming after you and you have to outrun it, and you don't know if your vehicle's gonna fucking do that. That was a great sequence when Godzilla shows up and is just swimming towards them. It's more terrifying than a fucking shark, and seeing a shark is terrifying for people. This thing is like a god-sized thing coming at your tiny little rinky-dink fucking splinter-ass boat.
Oh, damn. Like,
And all you got is a couple mines to try to detonate in its mouth.
Literally
and a
two.
little like machine gun.
Mm-hmm.
That shit was horrifying. And it solidified my love for these characters because they did everything they could to like take this thing out. Like they created many maneuvers. They communicated with each other. You saw that they cared about surviving and helping each other.
Yeah.
So when they finally kind of deter him by blowing up his mouth, we witnessed that he can regenerate almost instantly.
I was shook. I was just like,
I was like,
I
what?
turned to you. I was like, has he done that before? And you're just like, no.
From what I've seen in previous movies that I've watched, I haven't seen every single one, but I don't recall him regenerating.
Yeah.
Like half his face was blown off. And I was like, all right, he's dead.
Yeah.
You see Godzilla blood on Shikishima's face.
I just assume I was like, there's probably like more Godzillas because I'm like, we had this baby one a couple years ago. There must be other ones, but no, he just regenerates and keeps going.
Yeah.
And I was like,
what
what
the fuck?
Yeah.
And they at the last minute they get saved by the warship that comes because
the warship don't get saved by no one.
Very ironic how as soon as the big warship like seemingly has a chance at Godzilla, he's like, nah, bitch, goes underwater, takes down the boat, and dismantles it within like 2 minutes.
Because he kind of stands, I don't know what he does, but he's like, he smashes it with his little hands, his little cute hands, bites it. Everybody on that warship is just like, what the fuck? Doesn't he? That was the first time he goes underwater. What is that thing he does? Like
the heat ray.
The heat ray
is what they call it. The atomic blast.
Goes underwater after he like fucks up the boat so bad, and then he just like does this charge up blue thing, heat ray, and he just like destroys it. Big mushroom cloud, and Shikishima and his group are just like,
what
the fuck? Like,
it was bad enough that this dude could just fucking come at you and like destroy you physically with its body.
Yeah.
It can do this too. It nukes.
It nukes basically.
Yeah.
And then it just took off right after that.
Yeah. Then it swam away because I was like, all right, I think I'm tired now. These humans are tougher than they look.
Yeah. I was just like, wow.
Yeah, that shit was horrifying. And that was like the second time we see it. Instead of me being like, oh man, this is awesome, I want to see Godzilla wreck shit, I was like, no, go the fuck back to your house, please. Because it was horrifying seeing Godzilla chase these people in a small boat. It was horrifying seeing this creature atomically blast this supersized boat into nothingness. And we're supposed to buy into the fact that Shikishima and this group of guys are supposed to like kill this creature. Mm-hmm. Especially when later on we find out that they can't even get government resources because they're too worried about the U.S. starting some sort of war with the Soviet Union if they get supplied things from the U.S.
Yeah, it'll look suspicious. I'm just like, well, do we need to like introduce you to Godzilla or some shit? Like,
should we videotape Godzilla and send it to Soviet Union and be like, guys, can we just put a pause on this?
Yeah,
put a pause on this. We got something to deal with over here. Just let me send some stuff to Japan.
Well, you know how that would go. They'd be like, oh, let's see if we could use this against the U.S. and the U.S. can be like, let's see if we can use this against Russia. I'm just like, okay.
Yeah. So then later on, when basically the whole town is basically trying to come up with ways to kill Godzilla, it's amazing how people will come together, even though like a lot of people have doubts, because when you're asked to fight like another war after coming off of something like World War II, it's like, no, what the fuck? I'm not gonna do this again, especially because you expected me to die for the last one, so I don't want to die for this one too.
Yeah,
like God, it's insane, but also, like the attack that Godzilla does later on in Tokyo when it finally reaches the mainland.
Yeah, in Ginza.
In Ginza, yeah. That was even more horrifying. And that was probably like the worst of what Godzilla had done to these people. Because Yoriko is on her way to freaking work in Ginza. And when we hear over the radio that Godzilla's attacking Ginza, I was like, why? Why? Because they mentioned that Noriko finally has like a job and it happens to be in Ginza. Mm-hmm. And Shikishima has to rush over and try to get her out of there, which is a miracle that she found. Like they found her in all this chaos. But that shot that you see in the trailer of the woman looking through the window and you see Godzilla's reflection, That's the Noriko character, and at that point, I'm so invested in her that my heart just dropped when that scene happened, because you see the scene of like the train getting tossed in front of Noriko's train. Godzilla comes and picks up the train with its mouth. People are pretty much everybody fell off the train and are either injured or dead, and she's the only one hanging on for dear life. And it's just like every single second of that moment was just pure dread for me. Like I was just like, I'll be so pissed if she dies right here and right now.
I know.
It was like the whole sequence of Godzilla attacking this city. It broke my heart just seeing all these people like getting like destroyed, basically. Like every step, it shows you like the streets completely ripping off from the earth.
Because he's mad hefty.
Yeah, you see people. You get to see people's bodies flying up from the earth being upended. And you see like rubble hitting people. You see freaking news reporters on the roof.
They're just like, he's getting closer. Oh, we have a close-up look. The building collapses and then they're all screaming. It's like, who's going to print those pictures now, you idiots?
That's news media.
That's
the news job.
Yeah, that was, oh gosh, that scene was like really, because before this, I guess like it's a couple days before, after the group, Shikishima's group, get away from Godzilla. They this is like even before this, actually. His group of coworkers come to his house, you remember, and they were having like a good time and everyone's happy, and then they were just like, oh yeah, your wife. He's just like, she's not my wife. I was just like, damn, you gotta say it like that. But
like, what do you mean not your wife?
Yeah, they're like, what do you mean? They're like, well, who's this kid? They're just like, we just found her, or she found. And Shikishima's like very just like, this is what it is. This is how it started, and this is how it's gonna stay. There's nothing more to this. We just live together, and that's it. And his coworkers are kind of just like, what? Why is he wifing her up and stuff? And all the while, Noriko is like there washing dishes, and then there's like this telling vibe as like the scene cuts away for her washing dishes, because it's her overhearing that he doesn't think they're anything, not even a family. It doesn't even have to be romantic at the moment, which it, like you said, it didn't start like that. Like when the movie started and they just happened to start living together, she just stayed and never left. I wasn't like, ooh, I want them to get together. It was just like, this is nice. They found each other. They're working with each other. They're helping each other. They're providing for each other. And in that moment where it pans away from her washing the dishes and goes to the next scene, I was just like, damn. She felt that. And then next day or like a couple days later, she's like, oh, I got a job as, a receptionist in Ginza and stuff. And he's just like, do I not provide enough money? Why would you do this? And I was just like, you catching feelings, sir? And then she was just like, yeah, no. She's like, I can't keep letting you like, provide for me and all this stuff. So you felt that. That's where your romantic drama comes in, guys. So as we get to that scene in Ginza, and I'm like, she's there in Ginza, she's going to work, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like he's starting to realize that he may have feelings for her, even though, or he already has had feelings for her.
He's just been denying them.
He's been denying them because of his issues with, the PTSD and survivor's guilt.
Grief,
And that's what I love. I was just like, there's so much to these characters still. It's like, even with all this, like he's still not like, I should just go for this. Like, I know, like, I care about this woman.
And they've had really intimate moments. She's been there for him when he has his nightmares and he just says, I shouldn't be alive. Or, like, he literally questions his reality. Like, he questions, am I even alive? Maybe I'm dead, and this is a fantasy of a dead man. And he just keeps saying how he doesn't deserve to live. And she is one of the first people to tell him, you are deserving of living.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that happened to you, which he tells her everything that happens. Love that she doesn't question that there was a dinosaur involved because that's how fucked up he is.
Yeah.
She doesn't even have time to process that piece of information. She's there to support him. And that's like genuine love, like whether it's romantic or platonic, like being there for somebody to hold them back into pieces when they're crumbling.
Just bring them back into reality.
Yeah. Yeah. Because again, this man's gone through a lot. And honestly, this is like the morally gray question of, is Shikishima wrong for fleeing his duties back in the day? Because I could totally buy why somebody would just rush in and give their life to try to fight this thing. I also get why Shikishima would just freeze or hide or run away.
Yeah.
That is just ungodly levels of like fear that no person should ever witness. So it's like either way, whatever action or no action you take, I can't blame anybody for how they respond to something like that. And for him to live with that stuff is tremendous.
Yeah, and I feel like in a sense, it's like basically a brainwashing of people that feel like, well, I'm here in the war and I should just give my life regardless,
exactly.
you know, or not. And I feel like
it is brainwashing.
It is brainwashing, not even like, not for just Japan, but in other countries. And like even now where you're just like, this is your duty. This is what you do. If you die, you die. And it's just like, it makes like the human life disregarded and just like, very disposable. And I don't know. They didn't like show any scenes during the war or anything. We're just being told it based off of his trauma and what he tells other people. But it was pointless. They lost. Yeah. There was no point. Why would I crash my plane? Why would I crash my plane to just go down with, you know, and not even selfishly, like his parents told him to come back alive. And it's just like, if you can, basically. It's not like, oh yeah, just abandon it whenever you can and come back. It's like, if you can, come back alive. He saw that it was pointless. You know, they lost. There was nothing they can do. Come back alive. But then society, told by the government, basically like, this is what you do. Honor the country, save the people, protect the people. So it's just like, when can you, he's snapped out of that in a sense. Yeah. And I think it's because of the fear, because anybody in their right mind, whether they're told like, you must die for your country, they're still fair. You're still human. You'll still have a fear of death, of a giant Godzilla, of anything like that. So, yeah, I thought the moment with, you know, him telling her, Noriko, all about that, and her holding him down and just be like, you deserve to be alive, and you know, everything is real, and you know, just making sure that he's okay to just keep getting up every day and going is good. But getting back to the attack in Ginza, I was really like scared for her, because I was just like, oh, we had that moment, and I feel like there was still some stuff left unsaid. And it's like you said earlier, it's not all about Godzilla. We have these characters that we care about. Yeah. And I was just like, please don't let her die. Please don't he's going to save her. But I'm just like, damn, is this going to be where she dies? And that's the moment where he like tries harder and they defeat it. And I'm just like, why does she have to die for this? And I'm just like, it's always the mom character or whatever.
That's why in almost every anime, there's no mom.
I'm just like, damn, like she got to die to further the story. It's so rude. Like, what is up with that? But that scene was really scary. She does manage to get away from the train situation.
Yeah, and ends up in the city full of chaos.
Yeah, but she trips and falls. And in that moment, Shikishima finds her.
Yeah. Which is a stretch, but okay, I'll buy into it.
Yeah, I know. It really is, because like,
it is a massive place with so many people swarming the streets.
And like, how quickly did he get? I don't know the distance between where they live.
That's one of those movie magic things where we just have to suspend our disbelief. We don't know how close by he was.
And then that was the moment after Godzilla just like stomping around, like messing up stuff, stepping on people, tearing down buildings. He just decides to charge up right there.
You know what? I feel spicy right now. So I'm just gonna. It wasn't like there was like any warplanes or anything
attacking it. Yeah.
It's just like, you know what? I'm gonna cook y'all.
I think it was probably just like seeing the chaos of people, like smaller creatures, like running around him.
He's basically a big kid with a magnifying glass to some ants.
That's what it felt like. It really did.
So we see the fucking monster charging up, and the way it charges up is also very new. We don't see this in other movies. And in the trailers, it looked really cool. But in this moment, I was like, no, fucking turn that off. I don't want this to happen. And it just, the camera takes its fucking time, just panning up from the tail up to its neck. The dorsal fins are just like bursting out. They're protruding each one, and they're glowing.
And it starts getting faster. Like it starts from the tip of the tail, and then and I was just like, oh shit. I was like, where are they gonna hide?
Yeah, because once it launches that thing, it's like you're done.
Because they were behind him, Shikishima and Noriko, they were behind him, but they were still pretty close, and he was facing the other way to charge up.
The opposite end.
And then once he finally does, he just, if you guys haven't, think Jujutsu Kaisen after Sukuna's done with Itadori's body. And he's like, all right, you could come back. That's the type of devastation that Godzilla basically left there. Just wipes out that whole area of Ginza. I don't know how big Ginza is, if it was just all of Ginza. And the blowback of that blast, like everybody behind him, they just go swept away, go flying. And in that moment, Shikishima and Noriko, they are near an alley. And I'm just like, why don't y'all go in the alley? Hurry up. And then Noriko pushes him into the alley.
At
And
the
then
last
she's
minute.
just blown away. I was just like, you bitches.
Yeah.
Like,
and we forgot to mention the detail that the atomic breath isn't the standard atomic breath that we see in most movies where it cuts through things. It launches out into a distance and essentially just creates an atomic bomb explosion.
Yeah.
Almost as if they got bombed all over again.
Yeah.
Which is very like
Constant
creative.
mushroom clouds happening.
Yeah, which was just horrifying to watch. When I didn't see any spoilers or anything. I didn't see how the beam worked in this movie at all. That was my first time witnessing that, and my mouth just dropped. I was like, what the fuck do you mean this motherfucker nukes?
Yeah.
But then it makes sense because Godzilla is a product of nuclear explosions and radiations from the American testing and from its existence before that. So it creates another atomic bomb, which is why it creates this blowback effect. And like you mentioned, all these people get swept away. We don't even get to see where their bodies are at.
Yeah.
Or if some of this debris is bodies.
Yeah.
So when Shikishima's looking around after the aftermath and he doesn't see Noriko anywhere, I got so teary-eyed. My throat was clenching. I really wanted to cry.
Yeah.
I was so like emotionally moved, and that was the first time in the movie where I really felt like such dread and sadness, and I did not expect that going into this movie at all. And when you see this motherfucker Godzilla just walk away, it's like, all right, I'm going back to my home. I'm tired. That was a spicy meal. And just Shikishima is just like in a rage and sadness and just anguish, like all at once. Like just tremendous acting from this guy. Like all these characters, they bring out all like the rawest emotions from the most calm to the most just like outrage. Like you feel for these people. It's like acting that I don't typically see in American movies, honestly. Because how often do you see leading men get that emotional in American movies? Like, I'm sorry, Aaron Taylor Johnson walking around seeing people get squished and he just doesn't even like go like not even a gasp.
Yeah.
He's just cool action man guy because that's what we do with our white male leads.
Yeah.
So
I want people to cry.
Yeah.
Like,
and this dude,
he cares.
Oh my God, I would have ended myself right there. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it was
devastating.
Yeah, because like you look at after the war, that was devastating. People rebuilding, and it's just like, damn, we just got this shit running again, like a couple years ago, like, and now this happens.
All taken away.
It's all taken away.
And it's back to a negative state, not even zero.
Yeah.
It's like I just -1 you guys.
Yeah.
It was insane. So that was the moment where that really defined the tone of the movie, and it was just like, God, how can it get any worse than this? Like, it better get better from here. And then that's when we get exposed to the plan of Shikishima and all these other characters banding together to create a weapon or create like some sort of plan to like finally get rid of this creature, because they don't got bombs. As if that would even work. They don't got guns, as if that would work.
The government's
anyways.
not providing anything for them. They just have to
because
work
of the
with
tension
what they have.
with America and the Soviet Union. So they're just like, you guys are on your own, man. I don't know what the fuck we're doing. We're up here twiddling our thumbs and just like the budgets, huh?
Don't even get me started.
So when who was it that proposed the plan? I think
Noda. He's been planning it.
Yes,
The scientist.
Kenji Noda.
Yeah.
The professor or the scientist. I love just the character design, by the way. I'm just like, I like that he has this like very dusty gray wavy hair. He looks like an anime character.
He's so cute with his little glasses.
He's so quirky. I love it.
Yeah.
I love that in the midst of like all this like sadness and dread and seriousness of the movie, they fit in levity and they fit in humor that doesn't feel jarring.
Yeah.
Because sometimes some movies take themselves way too seriously to the point where it's like, God, just inject a little bit of like humanity somewhere. So they did really good with like fleshing out these different personalities. Because you need somebody like Noda who will remind you of why you're here and why you should continue to fight and why you should fight to just live. Yeah. Because that becomes a motto, a new mission statement for these characters, for Shikishima, for Noda, for Yoji, for Shiro. They learn that they don't have to fight just to die. They can fight and strive to live afterwards
Yeah.
and have a future, because that was like the culture that people just grew up on, in the previous years in Japan. It's like, you're not honorable if you give up on something or if you don't complete your mission in some way.
Yeah.
And if you care more about your life than your mission, you're not a man. You're not a soldier. You are a disgrace.
Yeah.
And I love that they came to that decision just like naturally. It didn't feel forced. It didn't feel preachy, because there's even within the group of characters, there's a lot of doubts when Noda brings up the plan to sink Godzilla and try to crush it with pressure. There's so many people that want to fight and do this thing, but they have so many valid questions. Like Shikishima goes, can you even guarantee that this thing will die? And then Noda explains, well, like, it's an organism that we don't know about, so I can't guarantee. And Shikishima just keeps asking, like, can you fucking guarantee that this thing will die? Because I am on a warpath with this thing. I want revenge, because he's under the impression that Noriko's dead. Couldn't find her anywhere. Held a whole funeral for her.
Yeah.
The poor baby cried, even though Sumiko gave a euphemism to the baby, saying, "Oh, your mom had to go to work for a long time."
Yeah.
The baby understood she's not coming back.
And she started crying.
And Shikishima is just, he wants revenge. And now this he's got all these regrets coming up of not taking action sooner. Now he's hell bent on killing Godzilla. And he brings up very valid questions, like, how can you guarantee, like, is this just going to be another suicide mission again?
Yeah.
But as convoluted as the plan sounds, it's the only shot that they have.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. Like, if you can sink this creature and try to kill it with the pressure of the tons of water down there, and try to bring his body back up, if the plan fails, try to crush his body upward, it's the best plan they've got, because they got nothing else. They got broken boats. They got one old plane with a gun. It's like
With a gun.
nothing they can do. You can't stab this fucker. So basically, they have to dedicate themselves to this plan. And there is a group of people that decide to leave the plan. And I totally understand, because the general, he goes, I can't make you guys. Like, this isn't like the wars that we've had before. You guys have the choice.
Yeah.
You guys are free to go if you want to continue to live. I will not put any blame on you. I will not, berate you for anything. I'll totally understand. And a good number of men do decide to leave.
Yeah.
And I get why. I totally get why, because they want assurances. And
yeah.
It's just like they couldn't even get assurance in the previous war. So the characters that do stick around, they're the ones that continue with the mission. And it's one of those uplifting moments where it's just like, yeah, we're going to fight to live. We're not just going to give ourselves away.
Yeah.
Because all these men have reasons to continue moving on. They have families. They have people that they care about, that they just want to fucking take care of and spend time with.
Yeah.
So when they move forward with the plan, that was really exciting, because that is the first moment ever of optimism that we get in this movie. So, and it just made me love all the characters more. Like, the Yoji character, he's one of my favorites. Like you said, he's just a really charismatic guy.
He does the funniest faces too, because he's just like, he's just like that older guy. He's just like, what do you mean? Like, you're young. Like, why don't you like do this? Or, or you're too young to go there. You don't have any experience. That's what he keeps saying to Shiro, because Shiro hasn't been to war.
Yeah.
And I remember that moment, like in the beginning, when Shikishima, he first joins them, and Shiro says something like, oh, yeah, man, I wish the war wasn't over so that way I could do this. And then Shikishima gets so pissed off. He's just like, I know you don't fucking mean that. You don't mean that.
Yeah.
And then Yoji's just like, you baka. Baka. Yeah, and I was just like, moments like that, there's not like heavy comedy in this. There's like not really, but there's these like regular, just wholesome moments where they are maybe laughing and chuckling for a moment. And I felt like in the theater, like we were doing that, and then like the rest of the audience was kind of doing, there's those moments where you just felt like we could breathe for a second, we can joke for a second, and tease maybe a little bit. But yeah, I ended up really liking his character, and I like that each of these new coworkers he had for the minesweeping job, like they each had like a personality. Yeah. And it wasn't just like these are people he works with and they might get picked off eventually. I didn't feel like I was rooting for them to like survive this and make it out alive.
Yeah.
So when they were just like, we're going to do the plan, I was worried that they were going to back out. Like one of them or a couple of them would just back out of it. But they were all part of it. Even Shiro, who he's green, basically. He's like, never been to war or anything.
Yeah,
they were just like, no, you're not coming. And he stays back and he's like, take me with you guys. Come on.
Yeah.
Like I could be useful. Blah, blah, blah.
Which he's old enough to fight, but it's like...
He just missed that time, right? There was just like, it just stopped at that point. So, yeah.
So I love those moments where you have genuine human character connections with each other. You get these moments of levity. You get moments of levity that gets undercut when somebody says the wrong thing and somebody gets mad at them. And then they have a whole philosophical discussion. And it all centers on Shikishima because he is revealing to more and more people about what actually happened in his past.
Yeah.
And the people that are there to support him, they have a genuine, authentic reaction of kind of like disdain and disgust. I'm like, really? You didn't do that? Like, why didn't you fight? Like, and those are natural moments of conflict, but then they come back together because they also, now that they're in the situation with Godzilla, they understand why someone like Shikishima would like regress and not follow through with actions, or like with missions or anything.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of back and forth dynamics with these characters that progresses in the movie. Like their relationships gets better, but then there's moments of conflict within the team that I feel like is missing in a lot of storytelling because that's just how people work. Like in just even in like revolution movements, like not everybody agrees on the same thing. Sometimes there's infighting with each other, and they have to come to resolutions together by having open and honest conversations. And these characters, they open up with each other. Like these are grown-ass men that are not used to being vulnerable with each other, but they need to do that in order to understand each other and be able to come together to work on this goal of surviving and getting rid of Godzilla. And that ties into what happens with Shikishima and the Tachibana character, because they reunite after those couple of years between what happened in Odo Island and now. He mentions to Kenji Noda that he's going to need a fighter plane because if this plan's going to work, he needs to lure Godzilla into position to sink him into the ocean. He's like, I need a fighter jet, and I also need something that can shoot. Just in case, because he really wants to fucking damage.
Yeah, I know.
Because he's not telling Noda his full intention, that he just intends on doing whatever he wants as long as it means Godzilla's demise. So he's able to reconnect with Tachibana by pissing him off, by sending him a letter and basically just getting him outraged because he's not able to find his home address since Tachibana's home was also destroyed. Yeah. And we don't know his current location. So it was really cool that they had a full circle moment of the Shikishima character and the Tachibana character reuniting. Tachibana's still obviously pissed off at him. He's got like a fucked up leg. He's not the same as he was before. He's got the trauma of survivor's guilt as well. And Shikishima asks him, can you please like repair this airplane so that it is capable of fighting, because I need to take down Godzilla. And then there's that tension of like, no, I'm not going to fucking help you because I already seen how you act twice now.
Yeah.
So I was like, no, I'm not going to help you.
Yeah.
But he gives in anyways because Shikishima is just open and honest about everything. He's like, I know I fucked up on this before, but this is the only shot that we have. And you're the only person that I know and trust who can help me with this. Because I know you want this as much as I do. Yeah.
Well, it was more like, I felt like it was more that he's like, I know you want me to die. Like I should have died or whatever, supposedly. Yeah. And Tachibana reconsiders because you see that Shikishima, he has like, he's lost something. He's lost Noriko, and he has the little girl there too. That's basically his daughter. Yeah. And he has like a little drawing from the little girl that he added to all the photos of the mechanics that died on Odo. Yeah. And Tachibana sees that, so it's just like, for me, it felt like he was just like, oh yeah, you have something to lose too. Just like these guys did. They had family. They had someone back home, and you didn't do what you needed to do. So now you're gonna go do what you need to do, and that's like the only reason why I'm helping. I got those vibes from him about that. I don't know if you felt that. There was more to it. Yeah, there was definitely like more like, okay, fine, I'm just gonna do it. Yeah. Yeah. But I got that. from him, and I was just like, damn, I was like, he's still really mad. And then
And I would get why.
I get why. And then Shikishima is also just like, he feels like he has to make up for like abandoning, make up for not pulling the trigger on Odo. And I just was like, oh man, I was like, are we really gonna do this? And he agrees. He agrees to do everything, and we get the little the repairs, and we get the scenes of him like inspecting the plane they're gonna use, because these are newer models that they never got to use. Yeah, so that's why Noda, he was saying that, was it Noda, and he was saying that, you know, they're kind of rusty, so that's why they need the repairs. We got to get them running again. And they're foreign planes, like fighter planes, right? So they now have ejection seats in them, which the planes that
the previous ones in the World War II
didn't have that.
Yeah.
So there was this moment with Tachibana where he was just like noticing that, oh yeah, the seat ejects. He's just like, I was like, is he gonna rig it and make it so it can't eject, or he's just not gonna say anything? And I was just like, oh boy, I was losing hope for Shikishima's survival once they go up against Godzilla.
Yeah. And so when he finally repairs the ship, they actually have a moment of kind of like making amends or beginning to make amends. So when Tachibana is explaining the mechanics of the plane, of like how to launch the bomb, you know, we get a moment of him just being like, you know, do this and then you'll be able to survive. And we don't get the full conversation until later on in the movie, like after, you know, like afterwards. So he shows them how to launch the bomb, and then we cut to the mission where they've lured Godzilla out, and Shikishima is like, he's setting up some tension for us, because when he's flying the plane, like he gets very close to Godzilla's mouth and shit. And it's just like he's really taunting him, which they need to do in order for Godzilla to focus on Shikishima to get into the water. But the whole time I'm just like, God, is he going to do some reckless, stupid shit that's going to get him killed and ruin the plan? Because he's hell-bent on revenge. Yeah. He's going along with the plan, but in his mind, he's like, whatever opportunity I can take to take out Godzilla myself, I'm just going to do it. Yeah. So when when the plan like basically starts failing because Godzilla gets sunken into the ocean, we see that he doesn't die. Like it's just like they still get readings on it, and they're just like, "Fuck! All right, we gotta do the plan B." So raise up the inflatables, and then you see Godzilla just like in this inflatable tube.
He looks so funny and cute.
It looks like he was at Water Country.
Yes,
it's like with this inflatable tubes all around him that's like shooting him back up into the surface. That shit was funny. And then that plan fails because the mechanics of the inflatable thing got torn up by it. Yeah. So Godzilla's stuck midway through and is not able to come up the way that they wanted Godzilla to come up.
Was he pulling back or just?
They just explained that that Godzilla tore through the raft, and that way it wouldn't be able to like rise up all the way. Okay. But Godzilla was still stuck there because there's still cables.
Oh, with attached. The bubbles that were pushing him down to like kind of crush him a bit. Because when he gets back up to the surface, like you see his skin's like all messed up and like torn up and crushed.
Frozen too.
Yeah, because they made him go down like really, really deep. I was like, can we just like keep making him go down deeper? Like, won't that eventually crush him? Why are we bringing him back up?
Yeah. So there's this really inspirational moment of just like, you know, these two boats, they have to tug Godzilla back out, and they give it everything that they've got, and it's just like, it's a really dire moment because they're able to bring up Godzilla, but Godzilla is like about to charge like this fucking beam. Well, before that, they're not able to bring up Godzilla because they don't have enough boats.
Oh, yeah.
And then that's when Shido, the teenager that they leave behind earlier in the movie, comes.
His tugboat army.
With his little tugboat army. He's like, we've come to fucking help, motherfucker. Because it looks so desperate. Like, they weren't able to bring up Godzilla with just the two giant boats. Yeah. It was like, fuck, we don't have enough throttle.
Breaking the cranes and everything.
Yeah. So then the whole like army of tugboats come in with all the people that decided to walk out on the mission earlier on in the movie. They decided to join. Another moment of inspiration, but then that quickly gets fucked over when Godzilla comes back up. And even though he's like kind of icy, he's already thawing out. and charging up
He's
another
like, I'm
atomic
gonna show your
blast.
asses.
Yeah, about to nuke all of these boats.
I know. It's like, not my baby Yoji.
So everyone's just like prepared for their final moments, but still trying to like do what they can.
And it was so silent. That moment where he was charged up, when it was finally like all the way, and then no sound.
Yeah.
No sound in the theater either. And I was just like on edge. I was like, I know you guys aren't about to kill all these people. Like, we working hard here. Like, don't do this.
Yeah. And then Shikishima comes in and is able to drop a bomb into Godzilla's mouth while Godzilla is charging up the atomic blast.
Along with the whole plane, because
yeah, tosses the whole plane in there. And the shot made it look like he might have like sacrificed himself into that. But I saw like a quick shot of Shikishima lifting his arm almost like he was about to eject. I don't know if you caught that image.
No.
There was a quick shot of him in the cockpit just basically about to raise his arm. And at that moment, I was just like, oh, he launched himself out with an ejector seat. Because at that point, we didn't confirm if there was an ejection seat like available until we got a flashback scene of Tachibana explaining, like, by the way, one other thing. Here's the ejection lever. Pull this when you're ready to, if you need to like get out of there.
Yeah.
And then in the flashback, Shikishima is just like stunned in the face. He's like, what do you mean? And then Tachibana tells him, live. Like, you need to live.
I was like, live. We're all going to live.
So I love that he doesn't straight up say, like, I forgive you for everything and we're buddies now. Like, obviously, he still has that pain.
Yeah.
He could have easily neglected telling him about that.
Do.
Yeah, he could have easily neglected telling him about the ejection seat. But he explains it thoroughly, and he tells him, you need to live. So he has kind of reconciled with his pain a little bit and told him, like, you know, you need to continue fighting for what's yours. We're all trying to do the same thing. And I just love that moment of just like camaraderie with these two.
Yeah.
Like, it was so good because there was a lot of tension with these two characters. And Noda points out that Shikishima's up on like a parachute. He's like, look, I see somebody.
Because they thought that
they succumbed to the explosion. So while Godzilla's eating that plane and just like disintegrating, you see Shikishima just floating down, and everybody just rejoices as Godzilla's just collapsing and sinking into the water.
Yeah.
Pieces of him are breaking off like clay and shit. It's just like, oh, I don't think he's recovering from that. Because he's like all crispy and shit and just breaking apart.
Because the heat ray that he was getting charged up, that ultimately destroys him too. Because like sitting inside him and then his face is blown off and so, you lost.
Yeah, so they actually pull off the impossible. These regular ass people with some military background built a weird device of just like sinking this Godzilla thing. Didn't work, but ultimately this improvised plan is what basically beats Godzilla. And I don't think a single one of them dies in this. Well, no, right? Yeah, no. There's only one boat that gets destroyed, and that's a decoy boat.
Yeah, that was a decoy.
I forgot about that really great moment. I thought you guys weren't sacrificing
Like,
nobody. What happened to no sacrifices?
Yeah.
And we see that the boat is being steered with a bunch of ties and shit.
Yeah.
And just like operating on its own in order to distract Godzilla. So I was like, wow, they really managed to pull this off with really no like casualties.
I'm like, see, all y'all that went home to your families, y'all could have been a part of this. It's
like, I mean, they did eventually. So that was also really great to see that, because you expect in every climax that some people are gonna die.
Yeah.
Which it's realistic. That's a realistic thing that happened.
Especially because that moment too, they thought that they lost and it was all over.
Yeah.
So you could see some of them taking off their hats, and it was just like,
it's been an honor, guys.
Basically, literally Titanic type shit. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. And I was just like, oh man, like, is this really happening? And then,
Yeah, so then we get a moment of celebration. Like, people, like, fucking grown-ass men just breaking down and crying because, like, dude, you're, like, shitting yourself the whole time trying to fight this thing.
Yeah.
And it was just so beautiful to see everybody rejoicing and just, like, celebrating each other, embracing each other. It's a really idealistic ending that I feel like really just was the payoff. It really paid off. It didn't feel forced. It didn't feel, like, too unrealistic. It really felt like a genuine, just, like, a resolution. And then we also get another resolution where Sumiko comes with a telegram for Shikishima, and she goes, "You need to go to the hospital right now."
Yeah.
And you're like, "What the fuck do you mean?" But then as soon as she said that, I'm like, "Nah,
Yeah.
you can't be real right
you
now."
You can be real right now, Alvin.
So Shikishima goes to the hospital and sees that fucking Noriko is still alive.
Yes.
I mean, half her face is bandaged and stuff, but for the most part, she's fine.
Yeah.
And it's just a beautiful, just like a cherry on top of happiness. Like it's idealistic, and but it pays off. I feel like it earns that with all the dread that this fucking Godzilla dragged us through. I think we earned a super happy ending.
Yeah.
Like it's very idealistic, and I think it's doing that to again state the point that you should fight to live. It's not fight just to like sacrifice yourself and maybe give a chance to somebody else. It's like you deserve to join these other people and move on into the future.
Yeah.
I love this ending because I think that just drives home the whole point of this movie of not being so nihilistic and always having to just give everything of yourself.
Yeah.
And it was a really beautiful reunion. Like in between that scene and Noriko supposedly dying, I got emotional during so many points, and then here I wanted to cry tears of joy.
Yeah, I definitely a couple drops.
My eyes were so watery. It was
I
just
know,
like,
but I didn't want to like miss anything crying either.
I just didn't want to miss subtitles. That was my main reason for holding back. It's like I can't miss the subtitles.
Yeah, that was a really good moment, and I knew because I was just like that guy came to their house with a telegram.
Yeah.
And then
Sumiko looked
shocked.
Shook.
Yeah, I was just like, we didn't see a body, guys, so I think I know what's going on here. Yeah, it was a really, really good, sweet moment. And he gets down on his knees and he's crying. She's just like, basically, what did she say to him? She was like,
she said, "Is your war finally over?"
Yeah.
One of the last things that she hears him say is, "My war isn't over yet."
Yeah.
And yeah, that was a great line. That was a great line delivery.
Yeah.
And he just breaks down and just in her arms, and then got the baby with them. It was just so nice. It was really sweet and just super tender.
Yeah.
But
except
of course,
for the radiation going on in her neck, there was like this
we saw
weird,
like a black sludge or stain moving around
in her neck, and I was just like, uh-oh. I was just like, is that like just radiation? Because after the Ginza incident, they had people going on. They weren't letting people on there probably who were looking for their loved ones or whatever, but there were people who had like suits on and the radioactive readers and stuff, and those things were going wild. Yeah, so I was just like, damn. I was like, she's alive, but how long like, does she have? Will she be fully okay? Yeah, it was just like, damn. So she's here, but it's
And then they decide to do one last little sweep under the rug and just cut to Godzilla's pieces and chunks underwater. And then you hear the theme song again, and then you see that Godzilla's slowly regenerating again, and then you hear that dreaded roar, and then it cuts to credits. Godzilla -1. And then that's it. No post-credit scene. No Oppenheimer cameo. Talking about like, I'm building a team together, Godzilla. We want to bomb together. We bomb together.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the movie, and it's fucking glorious. Like, I would have preferred if Godzilla stayed permanently dead, but I like that these movies like to fuck with you emotionally and just be like, oh yeah, you get a temporary happiness.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe he just goes to America to fuck shit up instead. It's like, you know what, Japan, you did enough.
Yeah, America's gonna be like Godzilla 100, and I was like, you guys aren't cool.
Yeah.
Stop it.
So yeah, so that's the whole movie, and I fucking loved it from beginning to end. There was no moments that felt like it was a waste of time. There was no like characters that felt like a waste at all. Everything had its purpose. Every moment had its purpose, and I can't sing its praises enough. Like. And then the themes that come with it is like it's clear to you, but it's not like hitting you over the head with it, and I love it. Like some of the themes that come up is again like the power of just having a chosen family, and how other people might look at it strange, but then they'll quickly take to it. Like Shikishima's comrades, they question it at first, but it's like, well, you guys are really lucky that you have each other, whether you're married or not. Like it's important to have people that you love and care about. I love that they've hammered that in. The theme of everyday people being able to unite and actually do something when your government constantly fails you. Yeah. Like, I love that as well. The themes of redemption, like Shikishima feels like he redeemed himself for all the things he didn't do before. And then, the concept of honor versus living in your truth and your honesty, another great theme that comes up. And, environmental collapse due to man-made destruction. Godzilla is the embodiment of natural disasters due to man-made pollution and destruction. And just all these themes come together naturally. None of them feel out of place. So I love all like the themes that this movie touches on. It all feels like it works together. I don't know if there were like any other themes you might have thought of during the movie that we might have missed. But that's the stuff that I came away with is like all these themes.
No, these definitely, everything you said, I caught on to all of those things. And they didn't make it like super obvious, like this is what we're trying to say this. Yeah, it just seemed like a good story that we were able to watch and pull out a lot of emotional pieces and like things to think about and consider, and to think about how people, like, I know this is like, it's Godzilla, so it's not real, but it's still a commentary on how things were then and how people felt.
Yeah, because this is very like anti-imperialist Japan.
Yeah.
Like, it kind of shocks me that this movie was made and it's so popular in Japan, because Japan is still a very kind of like right-wing government, basically. Like, they're still like pretty pro-military.
Yeah.
So for a movie to come out like this, like, that's pretty impressive that you could just outright say like, yeah, fuck the Japanese government, fuck their hypocrisy. Like, it has to be us. And that's just like a very just relatable story. Like, all the stuff that we are witnessing and experiencing just all around the world and in the US, it's like, wow, it's really up to us to always have to fucking do everything to make things right because the government's not going to do shit.
Yeah.
Like, it just hits too hard. Like, it hits like very close to home.
Yeah, and it's just like we have to be the ones to think about our future. We can't leave it in the hands of the government because we don't know if they're actually, telling the truth, or if they actually will come to our aid.
Look at how the governments, like our country in the U.S., how they handle COVID.
Yeah.
It's like just shit like that.
Yeah, and that's why I was just like, this is relatable. It doesn't matter that it's supposed to be set back in what, like
1947.
Yeah, 1940s, 1950.
With a fictional creature.
Yeah. So that's what I liked about it, because I can relate to it, and that's why Shikishima's character, like, it's easy to understand and feel for him.
They're
and
the everyday
and
person.
Hope and want that he can, live and have a future and get past this, for himself and for the family that he's made and the friends that he's made. It's really important, because it's just like, it's not going to matter if everyone basically sacrifices and dies.
Yeah.
Then what's the point to all of it,
Yeah.
So those are a lot of good, themes that showed up in the movie, and they were they were easy to follow. I don't know how you couldn't, but they were also very relatable.
Yeah. Yeah. This movie is just fucking phenomenal. This quickly just went up and tied with my favorite movie of the year, right next to Across the Spider-Verse.
Ooh.
Those are the two movies that just really just impacted me the most this year. And I knew I was going to like this movie based on what I was hearing and stuff, but wow, I wasn't ready for the emotional impact that this movie like just walloped us with. So yeah, that's all of Godzilla -1. These are all our thoughts on this. I think we should just go right into ratings.
Go ahead, Alvin.
So right off when we left the theater, the first thing I thought was, this is the most potato, and I gave it some thought and some time. I'm still sitting on it. This is the most potato. It just gets the legendary most potato rating. I have no flaws with it. I have no complaints about it. It's emotionally moving. It transcends what a Godzilla movie can be. It's like this terrible monster creature feature, but it's a human drama on top of that. And it's the most potato for me.
I also will give it the most potato, because I feel like, for me, it feels like I'm watching a Godzilla movie for the first time. Like, this is what it should be. This is what I expect it to be.
It's like the definitive one.
Yeah, and I know people are just like, well, you're probably just saying that because this is like the first one you've actually like watched and remembered.
Recency bias.
And it's like no, I enjoyed everything.
Yeah.
Like, from start to finish, I was hooked. I was shook. It was just like, it was so good.
Yeah.
I can't deny that at all. So this is probably like one of like my like top movies of this year. Not that I can remember most of them, but this one will definitely stick with me. This is one I would definitely feel like I want to watch this again.
Yeah, for sure.
In theaters, I want to own it. And
Same.
I could watch this over and over again. Like it's one of those movies. And I feel like nowadays you don't really get those movies where you're just like, I could watch this over and over again.
Yeah.
Like I have fun. Like I'm going like back to the early 2000s, back to the 10s to like watch movies over and over again. Recently, there's nothing that I want to watch over and over again like that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, for
so
sure.
This
So
felt
the most
like
potato.
it. The most potato.
That's 2 most potatoes from us, guys. If you haven't seen this movie yet, go do yourself a favor and watch this. Even if you're not a Godzilla fan, this is a movie for you. If you're into human dramas, you should really go watch this. If you want something that's like a freaking, just like an empathy engine that you want to experience, this movie is for you, whether you're a Godzilla fan or not. So definitely check this one out. And with that, that'll do it for us here at The Most Potato. I want to thank you guys again for listening to us and joining us almost every week when we try to be consistent.
Yes.
If you guys haven't done this yet, please subscribe to us if you like what we're doing and hit that notification bell wherever you're subscribed at so that you don't miss out on any of our episodes. And follow us on Instagram and our Twitter, our socials. We post when we're going to do episodes and we get you hyped. So do all that good stuff. All right, guys, we hope you guys had a fantastic time listening to us. We hope you stay safe. And remember, fight Godzilla and live. Live. We'll see you guys later.
Bye-bye.